Good morning. In this lecture video, we're going to go over the spirogram and what we can learn about lung volumes and lung capacity by looking at it. So if you look here, we can tell a couple different things by looking at a spirograph. So just to kind of orientate yourself, here's going to be a couple of normal breaths. So everything above this line here is going to be inspiration and everything below will be expiration. So here's a normal breath right here. This is a maximum inspiration followed by a maximum expiration and then back to normal breathing. So by looking at this trace, we can tell a couple different things. The first thing that we're going to look for is called tidal volume. Tidal volume refers to the volume of air that's inspired or expired in a normal or quiet resting breath. And typically in a normal person, this is going to be about 500 milliliters. The second thing is the inspiratory reserve volume right here, which is the IRV. So that's going to be this arrow here. The IRV is the volume of air inspired in excess of the tidal volume. So here's our normal breath, but it's how much more we can breathe in outside of, above and beyond what our normal breath would be. Next is the expiratory reserve volume. So this would be the opposite. So we take a normal breath out. How much more air can we expire from above and beyond what is our normal breath? And that's the ERV. And typically in a normal person, it would be about 1,500 milliliters. Now again, these numbers vary a little bit depending on your gender and your size. So these are kind of just an average. Next is the residual volume. This is something that typically can't be measured. Usually in a male, it's about 1,500 milliliters. In a female, it's about 1,000 milliliters. And this is the amount of air that always stays in your lungs. No matter how hard you breathe out, you cannot breathe out this amount of air. It's always there. It helps keeps your lungs inflated. And it also helps for gas exchange to take place in between inspiration and expiration. So those are the 4 lung volumes. We can add together these different lung volumes in order to get some of the lung capacities. So the lung capacities, the first one is vital capacity, which is right here. This is the maximum volume of air that a person can exhale after taking the deepest breath possible. So this equals the inspiratory reserve volume plus the tidal volume plus the expiratory reserve volume. So it's this whole section here, and typically it's going to be about 4,500 milliliters. The inspiratory capacity is the maximum volume of air that a person can inspire. So this is going to include your tidal volume and then also your IRV. And typically it's about 3,500. Functional residual capacity is going to be the volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration. This provides air for continued gas exchange until the next breath is taken. It will be located right here on this arrow, and it's about 3,000 milliliters in a normal person. And then finally, the total lung capacity, which is going to include all of the different volumes. So that's that arrow right there added together. So by looking at these different lung volumes and lung capacities, we can determine a person's respiratory situation and whether or not they are having some kind of ventilation disorder, which can include either restrictive disease, which involves a decrease in the ability to expand the lungs. So typically when we look at a restrictive disease, we're going to look at expiration rates will be lower than normal. And then inspiration rates will be lower than normal, and then obstructive diseases, which are characterized by blocked or restricted airwaves, in which case you will see expiratory levels that are lower than normal.